Morning from Hong Kong. It's cold today. It's been cold all week. Cold, 18 degrees. That's cold for us, but we haven't had a really cold winter, so I shouldn't complain. Anyhow, there's four-ish movies opening in Hong Kong this weekend. Well, they opened yesterday because things here open on Thursdays. The first is Playing with Fire, which unfortunately I didn't see. I was supposed to go see it, and oh yeah, I was supposed to see it in Macau a couple months ago at the film festival, and that was one of the days where I had five films booked, and that was number five, and I was exhausted, so I didn't see it unfortunately, so I can't talk about it. Was that is that what I said? Dark Waters. I'm talking about Dark Waters. Early in the morning. The other one, Playing with Fire, which I thought opened last week, opened yesterday. That was another one I blew off because I just thought there's no way I want to see this film. I just know I'm going to hate it, so I didn't even see it. Third film is The Farewell. Amazingly, it's finally come to Hong Kong. You would think Chinese film, you would think should have been here months and months and months ago, and it wasn't. And finally now it is here. I think because the distributors were probably scrambling for stuff. The mainlander, with the coronavirus going around, the cinemas and I think all over China, well, definitely in Wuhan, but I think all over China are shut down. And the Chinese New Year is the big release time for these Chinese blockbuster films, and they all got pulled. I think it was seven films got pulled. So I think they got pulled here too, because I haven't heard about them. So I think the distributor was like, uh-oh. So we got The Farewell. I saw it ages ago, and I've reviewed it on my website. So, check out my website and read all about it. Howard4film.com, Howard, F-O-R film.com. Last film, which I am going to talk about, is Jojo Rabbit. This is another film I saw at Macau. It was the opening night film. I saw it a couple months ago. I was going to give the reveal. Okay, I can say it. I absolutely loved the film. I think my friend Glenn and I were the only two Jews in the audience. And for the first half of the film, we were laughing hysterically. I don't think the Macanese got the Jewish jokes by and large. And then towards, halfway through the film, then they started laughing. Whether they got the jokes or not, I don't know. But they started. But certainly for the first half of the film, Glenn and I were the only ones laughing. Yeah, I thought it was an excellent choice for a film festival opening night. I used to, I don't know if you know, I used to run a film festival for 14 years. So I know about programming, and that was a good choice. So the story, this film is directed and starring Taika Waititi, our favorite New Zealand Kiwi funny man who directed Thor Ragnarok. He starred What We Do in the Shadows. If you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows yet, definitely get your hands on a copy. It is a riot, absolute riot. And he was also the droid if you were watching the TV series The Mandalorian this past year or the past few months, he was the what do they call it? The nurse droid? The droid that could fire guns in every 360 degrees. He was the voice for. He wasn't the droid. He was the voice for the droid. So he does all sorts of things. And so he wrote the screenplay. This is based on a book. I didn't write down the name of the author. She's an American who lives now in New Zealand. She wrote the book. It's not called Jojo Rabbit. It's called something else. And from what I understand, it's a very different book. It's a serious book. But he took that and he mined humor from it and created this film. And yeah, so I do want to get a hold of the book. I don't think it's, I was reading up about it. I don't think it got great reviews, the book. But I'd like to read it. I'd like to see how different it is from the movie. So in the movie, because I don't know it's the book, in the movie we have Jojo, Jojo is a nickname for Johannes Betzler, who's played by well, he's 12 years old now. He was probably 10 or 11 back then. British actor Roman Griffin Davis. This is his first film. Here in the movie, he's an angelic-looking 10-year-old who lives with his mother Rosie, played by Scarlett Johansson, in a typical German town. We don't know the name of the town, but it doesn't really matter. But it's your typical German town. Now, his father's gone off to Italy to fight the Allies, and his older sister has died under circumstances that nobody talks about. Yeah, I think it's just, they know she's dead, everybody knows she's dead, but nobody talks about it. Now, Jojo is a good little Nazi. He and his second best friend, Yorkie, played by Archie Yates, also a young British actor in his first film, they've decided to join the local Hitlerjugend, the Hitler Youth Group, and they head off to a nearby forest to learn how to throw mortars and burn books under the tutelage of Captain Klenzendorf, played by Sam Rockwell, and his overly zealous assistants, Fraulein Ram, played by Rebel Wilson, and Finkel, played by Alfie Allen. You know Alfie Allen from TV's Game of Thrones, most notably. Now, Jojo's first best friend is Adolf, who's played by Waititi, and it's sort of that Adolf. It's Adolf Hitler, but it's not Adolf Hitler. He's there too, but only Jojo can see him. He's in his mind. Now, Adolf readily dispenses advice to the impressionable Jojo, and that advice is rarely good. It's quite funny. And it's on one of those occasions that Jojo injures himself, and he gets transferred to do administrative duties in town. Now, one day when he arrives home early before his mother, he stumbles across Elsa, played by Thomasin McKenzie, who was in the fabulous film Leave No Trace from last year, the year before. I thought I reviewed that film. I didn't. I should have reviewed it. If you haven't seen it, it's a fabulous film. So Elsa, he comes home early and stumbles across Elsa, and she's a young Jewish girl who Rosie is hiding in their crawl space. So there's space between the wall of the building and the wall of the house, and that's where she's living. Now, Elsa and Jojo agree to an uneasy truce because they know that if either of them rats on the other one to the authorities, they're both going to get into trouble. Well, and worse, probably both get killed. So as the two get to know each other, Jojo realizes that Jews aren't even remotely similar to what he's been taught. That's what the film's about. Now, to all those who say that making fun of Hitler and the Nazis is taboo because it diminishes their evil and it humanizes them, I would argue the opposite. I would say that satirizing their lunacy is the best way to beat them. So, this was always a thing. You never made fun of Hitler, and I know that there was Danny Levy, who's a Swiss Jewish director. He made a film. He was probably the first to make a comedy film. Well, not the first. I mean, look, you had Charlie Chaplin making a comedy film about Adolf Hitler in the 1940s. But I'd say in recent years, he was probably the first to make a film that satirizes Hitler. And I can't remember the name of the film. I liked it. Well, it was a sort of a hit and miss proposition. But he did get a lot of flack for it. So it's interesting. There's always a risk that if it continues, then it does make Hitler into a cartoon character, and there is that risk. But I would say it's a risk worth going for if it's done well. And I would also say, for people who say that, if you shouldn't try to humanize Hitler and the Nazis, I'm sorry, they were human. They weren't Martian. They didn't come from another planet in the 1920s and then leave at the end of World War II. They were us. They were human, and we have to accept that they were us, and we have to learn from that. So enough of my preaching. Now, looking at similar films that came before this one, and of course there was The Great Dictator, 1940 film starring Charlie Chaplin. There was To Be or Not to Be, the Ernst Lubitsch film from 1942. I think there was a remake, wasn't there? But that was the better one. This one, the 1942 film, was the better one. And there was the 1967 film, The Producers, the Mel Brooks film. Now, each in its own way said that tolerance and humanity will be here long after Hitler is gone. And while that is true to an extent. Intolerant people still exist. And I think that's who Waititi is targeting with his film, is the people today, not necessarily the neo-Nazis, but definitely the intolerant people, the racist and intolerant people. Now, to be fair, I would say he doesn't draw a strong enough line from the events in Nazi Germany to those taking place today around the world. And there's a chance that people who see this film are only going to view it through an historical lens. So I would have preferred a much, a little bbit more obviousness there. I would also have preferred that his three Nazi youth leaders, Glensendorf, Fraulein Rahm, and Finkel, they would be less earning of redemption. It's interesting. Sam Rockwell seems to play bad characters who earn redemption later on. He won an Oscar for that. I had a bit of a problem with that, but maybe because I'm Jewish, I don't know that they deserve redemption. But they did in this film. Now, many critics have also complained that Waititi's Hitler is too buffoonish, but these people have got it all wrong, and that's why I said before, he plays Hitler, but he's not Hitler. He's playing a 10-year-old boy's idea of who Hitler could be. He's he's playing a cross between his father and Hitler. And of course, it's all in his head. He's not playing Adolf Hitler. He's playing what a 10-year-old boy wants out of a father figure who's Hitler. Big difference. Now, that being said, as I said right at the outset, the film is a hoot. It's really, really funny, but there are some pretty sad scenes. What do you expect? It's wartime. And he does a wonderful job balancing the two. Like, just when you're in this mode, you're in this relaxed, calm mode, he just goes, yanks you back and reminds you of where these people are. And then, he gets you off into this relaxed mood and yanks you back again. And I thought he does that really well. I don't want to say too much about that because that's really the strength of this film. The two boys are fabulous. As I said, this is their first film for both of them. They're both fabulous. Mackenzie Griffin Davis, who plays Jojo, he beat out his fellow young actors Yates and Mackenzie to win the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Young Performer a few weeks ago. They're all deserving of accolades. They were all wonderful, and and I think really the praise goes to Waititi to bring such great performances from such young and inexperienced actors. So really, really well done. The film is also up for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Supporting Actress. That one I didn't get at all, but anyhow. Who's Scarlett Johansson, and Best Adapted Screenplay. Waititi's he's up for that one himself. I doubt it's going to win any. It's also up for costumes. This is another thing about the Oscars. This one's up for costumes. The costumes are fine, but Dolomite Is My Name was overlooked. So, what? I didn't get that at all. But anyhow, there's a whole, I write about all that. I did a review of the upcoming Oscars, and you can check that out on my website as well. So I don't want to go into that anymore. So I don't know that this film's going to win any Oscars, but it doesn't really matter. You should still see this film. I think it's a wonderful film, and even if it misfires a couple of times, I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. It's an all in all very, very enjoyable film. So highly recommend it. Go see it. That's it. That's all I'm going to talk about today. Next week, I got 2 exciting films to talk about, which I haven't seen yet. One I'm seeing on Thursday, and one I'm seeing, I have it here so I can watch it whenever I want. That always is nice. Maybe I'll watch it over the weekend. So that's what I'm going to talk about next week. I'm not going to tell you which ones, but they're both exciting films. And you probably know one of them because I think it's opening globally next week. Okay, have a good weekend. Have a good week. Stay virus-free as I am. Or at least I hope I am. Bye.